Welcome to the Movie Spoiler Club, the channel where you can watch movie, television, and streaming series within minutes. Today we're going to spoil the movie Blood Diamond, 2006. This movie story plot is about, as civil war rages through 1990s in Sierra Leone, two men, a white South African mercenary, Leonardo DiCaprio, and a black man fisherman, Djimon Hounsou, become joined in a common quest to recover a rare gem that has the power to transform their lives. With the help of an American journalist, Connelly, the men embark on a hazardous trek through rebel territory to achieve their goals. The year is 1999 in Sierra Leone. This African city is in the middle of a gruesome civil war. There is an apparent and visceral struggle between the government and the rebels known as the RUF. As the war spreads, we are introduced to the Vandys. A family of 6 are asleep in their hut. Solomon, their father, is trying to wake Daya in time for school. Daya reluctantly opens his eyes. Like most kids, he isn't thrilled with the idea of school. His father dismisses Daya's attitude. The pride Solomon has for his son radiates from his words as he speaks with love and fortitude. Daya's mother smirks at her son and warns them to stay off the road. By the end of the day, Daya meets his father after school to tell him all about what he learned. Solomon listens curiously while his son talks about his studies in mathematics, science, and social studies. The two walks along until they are interrupted by the sounds of cars, blaring radios, and the sounds of gunshots. Solomon grabs Daya's hand and nearly drags him off the road in search of cover. They run towards home. As the two near their village, Solomon stashes Daya under a boat. Solomon grabs a machete and runs into the village to find the rest of his family. In the background there is yelling, crying, as innocent people and families are murdered. Families are separated. Women are raped and held at gunpoint. Solomon finds his wife and children. He calls out to her but she is frozen in fear. Solomon uses his machete to hack a hole into his hut and pull his family out. As they all climb out of the hut, they run and Daya is there to meet them. Solomon turns to join them, but he is captured immediately. His family cries out for him, while Solomon urges them to run. The men who are captured are then lined up to get their heads chopped off. When Solomon is shoved toward the chopping block, he falls to his knees and looks up at the commanding officer. The commander interrupts the fun and decides to save Solomon's hands for better things. Next, we are introduced to a new character by the name of Danny Archer. Danny is sharp-tongued, quick-witted, and slippery. Within 1 minute of listening to him speak, it's clear this man can get out of any sticky situation he gets thrown into. Danny is a trained professional diamond smuggler. He has a new shipment to deliver, but on his way to Liberia, he is stopped by Border Patrol officers. Danny is arrested and sent to jail. Meanwhile, Solomon is searching for diamonds in an illegal diamond mine under RUF control. Some of the painters have attempted to hide rough diamonds they find in the water without alerting the guards, but they are quickly shot and killed. Solomon learns that if he wants to stay alive, he will have to listen and follow all the rules. It isn't long before Solomon finds a diamond. This diamond is gigantic in comparison to the diamonds other prisoners have found. This diamond is the size of a bird's egg and slightly pink in color. Solomon holds it in his fingers inside the pan. He nearly freezes while he calculates his next moves. Just then, a water pipe bursts, causing a commotion. Solomon hides the diamond between his toes and begs to go to the bathroom. He rushes out of the river to find a quiet spot. The commander stops him for a quick search. He checks Solomon everywhere, but not between his toes. Solomon rushes to hide behind some bushes. Once it is clear, he takes the diamond out for one more look and decides to bury it. The commander notices. Solomon stutters, and then gunshots and grenades interrupt them. The grenade throws the commander to the ground, and Solomon makes his escape. He frantically races to get away and find a new spot to bury the diamond. He begins to dig again. Hastily, he throws the clove diamond into the hole and covers it up with dirt. Footsteps approach and men with weapons appear to capture Solomon. At the jail, Danny is stewing in one cell, while Solomon stews in another. All is quiet until suddenly the doors burst open and people are aggressively chanting. A man is carried in on a gurney. As everyone tries to get a good look, Solomon notices it is the commanding officer. They stop in front of Solomon's cell and the commander starts shouting that Solomon has the pink diamond. Even though Solomon argues that it is impossible, Danny overhears this story and can't seem to let it go. The next day, Danny is bailed out by a close acquaintance. Danny mentions the story he heard in jail and demands that someone bail Solomon out too. While Danny waits for Solomon, we get a peek into Danny's life. He is a smuggler and has been for some time. He works with the colonel, But this relationship is strained. After meeting the Colonel, it's clear that the Colonel is manipulating Danny. Danny may have a desire to get out of the business he is in. He meets a journalist named Matty Bowen with an optimism about people that he has never considered before. Since Solomon has been captured, his son Daya has been separated from the rest of the family and recruited to the infantry. Once Solomon steps out of jail, his primary concern is to find his family. Daya was captured by the commander who has a vested interest in Daya. The commander is going to make Daya a war machine. Danny stalks Solomon at work every other day, and each day Solomon works hard to escape the conversation. Then one day, as Danny is losing patience, he tries to force Solomon to work with him. The rebels break into the city and begin to rain bullets on the crowded streets. During this moment, Solomon isn't sure he can work with Danny, but Danny says he can find his family. Solomon wants his family back more than anything, so he chooses to go with Danny instead of dying in the street. The RUF gain control of the city and set up camp. That night there is loud music, dancing, and drinking. The two men watch in terror. They need to find the diamond so that Danny can get out of being a smuggler. Solomon needs the diamond for his family. In order to get anywhere, they just might need the help of Matty Bowen, a political journalist. Danny entices Matty's interest by mentioning that there's a story for her, the story of a family torn apart by war, and the dirty dealings of Vanderkop Industries. Thankfully, Matty agrees to help them. The three of them make it to Tassin Camp in Guinea. There Matty hands the guard a list of names for him to find inside the camp. The guard leaves for a moment. During those moments, Solomon looks through the fence in search of familiar faces. He has to know his family is okay. Then in the crowd, he sees Jassy. He calls for her. Jassy lights up and runs with her daughter to meet Solomon. They are in tears as they greet each other through the fence. Matty snapping photos as discreetly as possible. Solomon is elated to see his daughters, but then he searches above them for Daya. When he asks for Daya, Jassy's face drops. Solomon is confused and yells for his son. He cannot believe what Jassy is telling him. He makes so much of a scene. They are forced to leave without his family. The government will not allow anyone to leave. Matty believes she can help but isn't sure journalism is serving that purpose. Danny has been trying to survive his entire life, wants a sense of freedom. Solomon lost his family and feels lost without them. If they want to achieve their goals, they will have to work together. Internally, Solomon is battling with the loss of his son. He cannot help but wonder if his son is okay, dead, or alive. What will become of him? Later, the three are forced to separate from the rest of the media crew. As they are hiking through the jungle, they stumble upon an African tribe. This tribe leads them to a rehabilitation camp where they meet Benjamin. Benjamin rescues child soldiers. So many of the soldiers are brainwashed, abused, and traumatized by war. These children are getting another chance at a fulfilled life without the ravages of war. Here we learn that Danny lost his parents at a young age and was taken in by the Colonel. This man may have disguised himself as a father figure, but Danny can't see past the manipulation and abuse he has endured. Now 31 years old, he realizes he has nothing for himself and no skills besides tricking others into getting what he wants, or what the Colonel wants. The next morning, the three take off down the road where Benjamin drives for them, and are stopped by some child soldiers. Things escalate quickly, and they need to make an unexpected stop for medical attention. They find the services they need, but it just so happens that the Colonel is there too. The Colonel gives Danny some orders, and even though Danny seems to hear him, something in his eyes say he isn't listening to the Colonel anymore. Instead, he has Matty distract a guard so he can sneak into a nearby tent and swipe some supplies. When he gets everything he needs, he walks around the back of a tent to say his goodbye to Matty. Matty gets on a plane, while Danny and Solomon make a run into a jungle to get the diamond. On their way to Kono, Solomon and Danny get into a fight because Solomon wants to find his son. Solomon lets up and surrenders. Danny doesn't believe that Daya is alive but understands Solomon's unrest. They scope out the RUF camp from a safe distance. As night creeps in, Danny warns Solomon to stay there for the night. But later, when Danny wakes up, Solomon is gone. Solomon finds Daya, but Daya doesn't recognize his father or doesn't want to. Solomon is captured by the commander. This time he throws Solomon a shovel and demands he dig for the diamond. Solomon digs for a moment, but then gunfire rips through the air. Solomon takes his shovel and bashes the commander over the head several times. Danny races into the camp and tries to rescue Daya. Daya is scared and runs away. A chopper lands and the Colonel steps out. However, there is still no diamond. The Colonel demands the diamond, and Solomon refuses to talk. Danny tries to convince Solomon to tell him where the diamond is, but Solomon still refuses. It is at this point Danny has no other option. He pulls Dai out of the crowd of prisoners and hands him to the colonel. This motivates Solomon to find the diamond. They all hike their way to where the diamond is supposed to be buried. Solomon begins to dig but can't find it. The colonel is growing more and more impatient. He points a gun at Dai's head, and Solomon decides to keep digging. Solomon pretends to find the diamond and distracts everyone around them. Danny attacks on a soldier's throat. Then the colonel and Danny shoot at each other. But Danny delivers a fatal shot. TIA. This is Africa. They find the diamond for real. Call the plane and head up the mountain to finally get out of Africa. As they climb, Danny realizes he has been shot too and is losing blood. At one point, he is so exhausted Solomon throws him over his shoulder and carries him the rest of the way. Danny angrily demands to hold the diamond. The diamond is Danny's ticket to a new life. But that window seems to be closing rapidly. When they stop to catch their breath, Danny demands they leave him. He hands him the diamond, a gun, and a piece of paper that has Maddie's phone number on it. Solomon and Dai make it onto the plane with the diamond, where Danny tries to buy them time against a group of soldiers that follow them. Maddie meets them in Guinea to grab her story. Solomon meets with the seller and won't agree to a sale until they can get him and his family back. Vanderkamp impatiently agrees and delivers the rest of the Vandy's family to Solomon. Once the sale is complete, the story makes headlines and becomes scandals. Solomon is saved, and so is his family. Since the story broke, there have been tighter restrictions on the sale and trade of diamonds. Unfortunately, illegal diamonds still find their way into the mainstream market. Still today, there are more than 200,000 child soldiers fighting in the war. Movie trivia. Do you know that De Beers Group, which is the largest player in the diamond trade, has expressed reservations that the film will reduce public demand for diamonds? De Beers maintains the trade in conflict diamonds has been reduced from 4% to 1% by the Kimberley process, and it has been suggested the company pushed for the film to contain a disclaimer saying the events are fictional and in the past. De Beers has denied this. This movie gets the movie rating of 8.0 from IMDb, Tomatometer rating of 63 and audience score of 90 from Rotten Tomatoes. Thank you for watching, and be sure to hit like, subscribe, share your thoughts in the comments section, and hit the notification bell for the new movie spoiler video every week.